Oh man, it's already great to have you back, Sport man. So for those that don't know, we have
Oh my
Sport
god.
visiting us again for another installment. I believe this is episode 5. Yeah, this is for sure
Yep.
episode 5, maybe 6 because of that replay. It's
Yeah,
already,
because I was there for episode 2 in that, and oh my god, that was rough.
yeah,
Because
we're
we
not
didn't
doing
realize we're not professionals yet.
that. Yeah, we're not having that audio problem again. You guys should be more than capable of hearing him now. Oh man, that was terrible the first time around. But we're here, and we won't have that
Yep,
problem
we
again.
are. So we're going to be going into a few details today. We're looking at future prospects. So we'll go into the off season. So we're reaching the near end of the regular season of the NBA, and we are diving into March Madness now that round 1 is still currently underway. So we want to look at future prospects that we think would make an impact going into next season, or just in the future in general, really. And another thing that we're going to be looking at as well, if provided we have time, is a look into the award races, because there has been recently a shift in the MVP ladder, even though I really think there shouldn't be, because let's be honest, as long as Denver remains successful as a whole, Jokic is going to win it.
Yeah,
I don't see Embiid overtaking him.
You don't? I mean, realistically, I don't. Actually, no, I'm gonna save it. I'm gonna save it.
No? Okay, screw this. We're going to get into this now then. Because we're going to get into this now.
All right, sorry, y'all. We're going off the track because we got some stuff to handle.
Well, let's be honest. Denver goes as far as Jokic takes them.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, Jamal Murray is good. Yes, Aaron Gordon has come into his own ever since he came to the Nuggets. And yes, Michael Porter Jr. is a good foundational rock to be able to put into that lineup and actually really complement the team as a whole. But that team goes as far as Jokic takes him. And a lot of people are calling him a freaking stat pattern. But you ever notice he gets all his stuff throughout the flow of the game? He's not trying to force it.
One before I take my turn on that, I'm gonna address your stat pattern. If you are a listener and you are one of those people that push that stat pattern propaganda, watch the game. That's all I'm gonna say on that. I'm not even gonna get into it with Russ.
My biggest thing with when Russ was averaging triple doubles, 2 seasons in a row, and everything like that. A lot of his assists kind of really felt forced because the playbook literally was around him and everybody clearing out of his way.
It's true, yeah, I can see that. I mean, like, obviously not every assist or not every rebound, not every point you get is going to be in the flow of the game. If I got 9 natural assists in the flow of the game and I need one more for the triple double, of course, if I'm the teammate that's not getting, of course I'm gonna force that to him. Like, why not? That's good sportsmanship. I'm gonna get him that triple double. I'm not gonna be an asshat. But what I wanted to comment on that was on the whole Jokic takes the Nuggets as far as they go is while I do agree, here's my stance on it. As far as the other candidates, and I'm saying Embiid, and I'm also throwing Giannis in there. That's the third guy I'm gonna throw into this mix. This season alone, I feel like let's take all 3 of those teams and let's take out the star players. Like at the beginning of the season, if Jokic was hurt for the whole season, if Embiid was hurt for the whole season, if Giannis was hurt for the whole season. Without Jokic, like you said, he takes them to wherever they go. But this season alone, with how flunky and how loose the seeding has been for the Western Conference all year, I feel like the Nuggets can still claim a playoff spot. Whereas I feel like if Embiid was hurt all year, the Sixers would not be going to the playoffs.
They'd be getting to the play-in at best, and that's not a knock against James Harden and his ability to score. It's just aside from James Harden, who's really been playing any full-time productive basketball with the Sixers, they would at least make a play-in without question. Tyrese Maxey is, I don't know, his shooting, how streaky Tyrese Maxey's shooting is with the Sixers always reminds me of Eddie House, because if he's on, oh my God, he is on. He don't miss. And Eddie House is the definition of a streaky shooter. You go into the NBA dictionary and you look up streaky shooter, you're going to see a picture of Eddie fucking House.
But the same goes.
Tell me I'm
I
wrong.
might be a little too young to know who Eddie House is, but I'm not going to disagree for the sake of the convo. But I mean, same thing goes with Milwaukee. Although I feel like they have a little leniency because Milwaukee's been playing great while Giannis was out.
And it's because they've got depth.
Mm-hmm.
They have something that not a lot of teams have, is depth at every possession. Even when it was Milwaukee who picked up Jay Crowder, from the trade deadline, if I remember correctly.
Yes, sir. Yeah, they
have depth at every position, and Crowder really slots in very well when Giannis is out as a defensive presence. I have to throw that one in there.
And also, like, Bobby Portis, Brook Lopez. It's not only that they've been producing, it's the fact that they've been on that team for a little minute. Like, Milwaukee's roster doesn't change much. Similar to how, like, the Nuggets do. They don't really change their roster too much, but they just have had inconsistencies with injuries throughout the postseason. So that should be actually fun to see what happens if they can be fully healthy this year. But, I mean, going back into the MVP thing, like, I just feel like because of that, like, the saying that if Embiid was out all year, the Sixers wouldn't be where they are, and the Nuggets, they wouldn't be top, but no one would be worried about them. I wouldn't worry about the Nuggets not making it in.
Then that being said, you want to know what player that I'm surprised hasn't really been talked about that much? I really think it's just more so because his scoring isn't as consistent, but his rebounding is, and what he means to this current franchise, the current number 2 seed in the Western Conference, the Kings, Domantas Sabonis.
Sleeper. It's hard to sleep on the
Don't
Kings
sleep on that,
man.
Yeah,
bro.
Don't sleep on that, man.
De'Aaron Fox has been dropping pretty much 30 a night. Sabonis lately has been posting a couple triple-doubles. He's always been crazy on the boards, but shoot.
Exactly, and that's been a thing on that one. Once you have a big who can produce and help maximize your freaking possessions with the rebounding, that's what it takes to succeed at any level of ball.
Literally. A player that can produce even when they're off their game. So if he isn't doing well shooting, like you said, he's still on the glass. He's still facilitating. And the Kings, they're tough, man.
That's what separates good players from great players.
Mm-hmm. And obviously he doesn't get his flowers because it's the Kings. Even if they are the second seed, people aren't really thinking of him. Like anybody that doesn't watch the game will still think the Kings are sorry right now.
Exactly, and this is actually the first time since the 2007 season that the Kings are basically guaranteed to not have a losing record.
Mm-hmm. First season they've gotten 40 wins. Light the beam. Is that the thing they have going on? Light the beam.
Yeah, that's that. Yep. That being said, I am going to say this right now. The complete turnaround that the Kings have gotten from the last several seasons to this one, Mike Brown deserves to be in conversation for Coach of the Year.
Mm-hmm.
And anybody who disagrees with that does not really quite understand the difference that he has made in their philosophy of the game as a team.
I don't disagree, man. I agree wholeheartedly. Like I said, the Kings as a general, not just the players, the staff, everything, the whole entire franchise is just, it's been so long since they've been good. It's kind of hard to give them their flowers because we just expected them to be bad.
Exactly. And that's the thing. This season, I never expected them to be bad. I just expected them to underachieve. I look at them and it's like they're overachieving. Again, it's still a 2-person race for most improved player. We know who that's going to be at the end of the day. It's going to be Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, no question, but Şengün of the Rockets, honestly, because of how bad the Rockets is, he's not going to get whatever his credit because of how much granted, he's actually a starter this year as opposed to being a role player, so he's seeing a lot more minutes, so naturally he's going to improve and he's going to produce more. But on that same token, even in his rookie year, he was still seeing like 18 minutes a game.
Mm-hmm.
That's respectable for a rookie off the bench.
That man, Shai, bro.
But Shai is going to win that one hands down. That one's a one-man race.
That man,
I think if Usain Bolt decided to race against himself and punch himself in the back of the head.
Like, isn't he cool? Let me see. He's putting up, 30 a game, right? 31 a game. 5-5. Almost 2 steals, and he's a block on the dot. Come on, man.
If he doesn't win Most Improved Player of the Year, I will be stunned.
It'd be ridiculous.
I want to know who I will be putting out freaking manhunt collections on whoever the hell is putting out these votes.
He's averaging, 7 more points, only half less of an assist, 0.2 less rebounds, and the defensive stats are pretty identical. A little more steals, a little more blocks, and he has not changed his turnover rate.
And that's a thing. And that's what, you know what we call that?
What?
Consistency.
Not only in gameplay, but in growth. Every night the man gets
Exactly.
better. Not even just him, all of them. Like, remember when people thought Lou Dort couldn't score? He put up 14 a game.
Yeah. That's what you want out of the starting three who is not meant to be a superstar. Lou Dort, honestly, how do I compare him? He's like, what, 6'4", 6'5"?
Yeah.
Playing the three?
Mm-hmm. Playing that, like, Royce.
How would I compare him? Yes, perfect. That's actually perfect. That is perfect. I don't know why his name did not come to me right away. I'm mad at myself.
I know, it just popped up. I just took a random jab at him, man, to be honest.
Exactly. Lou Dort made his presence known. He started in the league as being a bit of a defensive menace.
He is, and he still is.
Not necessarily clamp down and beat you at every possession, no, but he is. You have to account for his presence every game.
For his age and experience, it's definitely something to know. He's still under 25.
But wasn't he also an international player or Canadian or something like that?
I know Shea is Canadian. Oh. Sorry, Canadian. But the OKC, and I'm not almost to the side because we go kind of far because I said still something. We really think Jokic going to take the MVP.
If they manage to hold on to the one seed all the way through and he still produces at the level that he was producing at, he can afford one, maybe two missteps as far as like a couple of number drops. But if he keeps up with the 25, 14, and 9, and he doesn't win MVP because of how much he truly means to that team, I'll be surprised if he doesn't win it.
Probably not.
As that team is built around Jokic. You take Jokic out, that team crumbles. They don't have the depth at the big position. Yeah, they did add Thomas Bryant at the trade deadline, which was a good piece for them, but Thomas Bryant cannot do half of what Jokic can do.
And who's the secondary big for Philly? Montrezl Harrell? Or is it somebody else?
Montrezl Harrell is actually, Montrezl Harrell is, actually I think he's a 4. I think he plays both 4 and 5 now that I think about it, but he is great on the defensive side. He actually makes he actually helps them defensively whenever he's out there on the floor. So Montrezl Harrell can do what Embiid can do defensively, but he cannot produce offensively like Embiid can. So that being the case, because Embiid he requires a lot of attention wherever he's at on the floor because he'll spot up at the 3, he'll knock it down. He'll knock it down if you don't respect his jumper. Man's dominant in the paint, but he doesn't have the court vision and passing ability that Jokic has, which is the main reason why I think Jokic gets it over Embiid.
Okay. Realistically, like you said, I think Jokic is probably going to get it. But if it was like a most deserving type thing, I really feel Embiid should have that.
No, I'm not going to sit here and deny that. It's basic to me. It's a 3-man race between those 3.
Mm-hmm. And yeah, and then Giannis there too. Like, he's putting up crazy numbers for his team, and his team is, like I said, is still amazing without him.
Matter of fact, I believe Milwaukee was the first team to clinch a playoff spot.
They were, and they had that crazy winning streak. Like they're all fired up right now. Like if I had to say any team was ready, it would be them. Not only the fact that they were the first team to clinch a playoff to clinch that spot, but they are the most ready team.
No questions asked about that one. If there's one thing that actually, as far as top teams in the NBA are concerned, the one thing that the Bucks do better than just about any other top team in the NBA is play defense. That is why they are so successful.
Mm-hmm.
So, that being said, I don't see Giannis winning MVP, but I do see him being a top contender for Defensive Player of the Year.
Most of. Has the race been DPOY?
Not that no. Are you talking about the rankings for
the DPOY?
It's going to come down to either Giannis and Jaren Jackson Jr. of Memphis. Yep. And part of that has to do with the fact that Jaren Jackson Jr. has like 3.1 blocks per game, and he's leading the league in blocks by a country mile. The next person close to him is Nick Claxton at 2.5 blocks per game.
But oddly enough, the person that's actually in second place for the running right now is Brook Lopez.
Brook Lopez has always been a defensive menace, and he can actually spot up shoot at the 3 range, which is, I think, what makes him to be incredibly invaluable to Milwaukee's run to the playoffs.
We'll see how Jordan does as John's been out. John's out for about 10 games.
And we need to talk about him too if we're able to.
We can. We'll circle back around.
Yep.
But March Madness. I'm not big on college. I know you made a bracket.
Oh yeah, no, my brackets were busted into the second game of the freaking of the tournament.
I mean, tell me
I
about
had
it.
Virginia winning it all. Well, I had Virginia winning it all because from what I was able to eyeball, anyway, Virginia was heating up at the right time going into the tournament in the first place, and they were really heating up in the points that I really see fit that matter the most. That is in defensive rating and rebounds as a whole, trying to maximize your possessions, mainly offensive rebounds, not just defensive rebounds, offensive rebounds. I've always based my brackets based off of those numbers because you don't get as many high scores in college. Yeah, you'll get a couple here that are like 96 and 96, sometimes even up higher depending on where overtime takes them. But you typically see games end in the 70-point range per team in college because they only play 2 20-minute halves in men's basketball in college, which I know makes absolutely zero sense.
Mm-hmm.
So that being the case, that's why I base my brackets based on those numbers.
Okay, that's reasonable. But now that you're already out early, I mean, what do you think will happen from here?
What I think is going to happen from here is, Jesus, that's right, spring training games for baseball is then here too. What I think is going to happen from here is I think it's going to come down to Bama and Kansas. It's really difficult to say otherwise, being honest with you. But there are other teams that you shouldn't sleep on. I would not sleep on Auburn. Anybody who sleeps on Auburn, they're going to be in for a rude awakening because they're scrappy. Let me put it to you that way. Their play style, they are scrappy. I wouldn't sleep on Penn State completely because, again, those scrappy teams, man, they're nobody to mess with. And don't forget, Princeton, an Ivy League school, a 15 seed in this year's tournament, took down the number 2 seed in the South bracket in Arizona.
Yeah, true. I did hear about that. I saw the game-winning play. That was crazy. Man, threw it away.
Exactly. You cannot sleep on these scrappy teams. The ones who are willing to get the most dirty work done, force the most turnovers. It's all the intrinsics that you don't see that usually ends up predicting the winner. At the end of the day, you still got to score more points than your opponent. There's no question about that. Which is why I'm saying it's going to come down to Bama and Kansas.
Well, don't sleep on FAU, man. No, I was just playing. I know they will probably work. I'm just speaking as a hater.
You're just saying that. You're just saying that because you're just an FAU alum. Do they even have a basketball team?
Yeah, they're playing against Memphis tonight. I think tonight.
Oh, for the NIU tournament? Oh yeah, actually yes they are. That game comes on at 9:20 tonight.
Yes, sir. I might watch it.
It's an 8 versus 9. It's an 8 versus 9, and FAU is currently on the 7-game win streak at the end of the season.
Come on, man. Don't sleep on that.
A 31-3 record, first overall in the Conference USA conference in college. Points per game, they're tied for 27th overall in points per game at 78.8 points per game. Definitely one of the slower-paced teams. Field goal percentage, though, tied for 34th in college basketball as a whole. Almost 10 three-pointers per game, which is good enough for 13th amongst all college basketball.
Okay, you good this year. I think we are 16th in that defensive rating. Come on, man.
And in offensive boards, honestly, that leaves a little bit more to be desired, but offensive boards are a lot harder to get than defense. Also, tied for 19th overall in rebounds, too. Oh, jeez. Oh, that's why I didn't look at you guys like that. I'm looking at the turnover rate.
Let me see.
Yeah. It's difficult to win when it's like almost when it's close to 12 turnovers per game. And if they can shore that up, then I can say definitely don't sleep on FAU. But I wouldn't sleep on them anyway, just looking at all this, because they have a high turnover margin. They're really negative in the turnovers when you look at it. If they have only like 7 steals per game throughout the entire season, but with almost 12 turnovers per game themselves, that doesn't necessarily slate well. To me, I look at that, I was like, okay, that's a little bit clumsy with the ball.
Okay, I mean, we're better than
I want to see what we get.
They what, 302nd? We chilling now.
Memphis?
Yeah, we chilling, man. We'll be all right. I'm just trying to be optimistic. But I mean, like,
do it, man. You got it.
Back to the teams that we actually think gonna do something in this tournament. Y'all get slated to be put out with later, bro. But like, what players have you been looking at? Like, we all know Wimby, Victor Wembanyama is probably gonna go number one. If he doesn't go number one,
no
then that team is gonna get slanted. Like in this 2K thing, in my career, you know how we have the freaking Shep versus MP thing. It's gonna be a real one of those if Wimby does not go number one. But other than that, who we looking at?
Wembanyama has the offensive skill set that every team is looking for. Being as tall as he is, definitely being able to be a big, being able to shoot the three. I just worry about where his size is, like weight-wise, and how good he can be defensively. That's why I'm still on the fence with how he'll produce at the pro level if his defense isn't already, if he doesn't develop on defense.
As a main anchor, I mean.
Yes.
Because his
if you're
defense
going to be
easy to get by.
Exactly.
But if you're going to be that guy like Rudy Gobert down there, then we don't know. He might get pushed out of the way a little bit and be just eating that up.
I want to see where he stands defensively, and that's where my biggest concern is with it. And also, he's built kind of like skinny, lanky, kind of like how Chet Holmgren is coming into the league. So to me, that also kind of screams he could be a little bit injury prone too in the long run. And so that would be hard for me to waste a number one overall pick on somebody who, there's a history of people who are built like that being oft injured.
Yeah, I feel that. There's a lot of other things to look at with his ability to shoot and answer the ball. Especially when there's other tall people out there. That's probably not, they're not doing the same thing. For example, that Princeton team, I believe they have someone at 7'5" on their team. If I'm not mistaken.
Let me double check.
The guy that pushed off that pass, I believe is him. That's who I'm talking about.
Yeah. Are you talking about Azolas to Ellis? He's like 6'11", 245.
No, not him. Does he play like a forward? Like, does he play like guard forward?
Number 10. No, he's just a forward. But he might actually. Oh no, that's Arizona. I'm looking at somebody else. Pierce. No.
There's someone on there, man. Let me just go on Instagram, bro. But while I'm looking for it, what other players have you been looking at? For me, Brandon Miller. I think he's supposed to go like top 2-3. You can jump into that top 3 range.
I expect him to go number. Let me look at who's eliminated already.
Arkansas.
Yeah.
No, he's Arkansas. I'm thinking of Nick Smith Jr. and Anthony Black.
The dude who you just mentioned, who you think is going to be top 2 or 3 overall, right? He's a guard, right? Or is he a big?
Brandon Miller is a small forward. As far as physicality goes, he's like 6'9", 220 around that range. He's a great creator, not just a scorer, but he's a great creator. Like, he can make space and he can use that space to do a lot of stuff. And fun fact, he beat Colin Sexton out for that record for the most points in the freshman season for his school. Yeah, pretty tough.
Nice. It's going to be interesting to see what the Spurs do after this season because with Popovich also retiring officially, but given what the Spurs have currently, it might be beneficial for them to pick him up over any other team.
You talking about Brandon Miller?
Yes.
The Spurs. To pair up with Keldon Johnson, Jeremy Sochan. That wouldn't be bad. Where I think he should go then?
Hit me.
Detroit.
Doing that, though, would make me think that they're easily giving up on Cade Cunningham a little bit too. Opinion, again. I think that, but then again, with Cade Cunningham being out for the season because of a lower leg injuries, I can see why they would do that because Cade Cunningham is like a 2-3 guy.
I feel like they could put him at the 1 with Ivy at the 2, Miller at the 3, Bagley at the 4, and Wiseman at the 5. They don't have a lot of forwards. They have a lot of guards and they have a lot of bigs. They don't really have as much of wings in between. Like, they have combo guards, but they don't have any legit small forwards.
Isn't Bojan Bogdanovic a legit forward?
I thought he was a 2.
6'7", 226. He's a 3.
Okay. But he's injured as well.
Yep, Achilles. He's done for the year.
But he's been, the Pistons have bad injuries. Bad injuries this season.
They need to look upgrading their medical facilities, in my opinion. I am so freaking mad with the Bulls, though. Like no joke. I don't get it.
I actually actually spoke on this. Okay, go ahead. Go ahead.
1 second, so go ahead and speak.
Oh, okay. I was just saying, I think I spoke on this either earlier this morning or last night concerning the Bulls, and what I got from that was how I feel on it. I feel like the Bulls have a lot of talent, but they don't have necessarily like specific talent. And what I mean by that, like you think about, like you said, the Bucks, they're great on defense. The Nuggets have Jokic and that ball facilitation. The Warriors, they're known for their splash brother shooters. I feel like Chicago has a lot. Like Vujovic is multi-talented, DeRozan multi-talented, Levine multi-talented, but that's what it is. It doesn't really mesh together. It's a lot of talent individually that doesn't really mesh together to create a team strength. Like
no real facilitation with Lonzo Ball basically going to be out the entire next season too. By the sound of things, they don't really have anybody who can truly facilitate the ball and initiate the passing while still finding a way to create his own shot that you have to respect.
And with that, it's like
need.
Right, and I feel like they have a lot of pieces, like they have to fit together. Like you said, Lonzo being out, that one piece being out is going to break their whole system down. It's not like Giannis being out, they can keep that same game plan going, that same regime going, that same intensity with him being there or not. Same thing with Jokic. Like, with Jokic being out, is he going to be the main, like, passing guy? No, but the game plan is still going to revolve around that facilitation. You know what I mean? I feel like Chicago doesn't have, like I said, they have a lot of great talent on the team, but they don't, I can't really word it. I feel like you know what I'm saying, but for the listeners, I feel like they gotta get this together.
They don't mesh well together at all without without somebody to being able to, some kind of offensive facilitator who shot you have to respect, can play good D, and honestly just has eyes everywhere on the floor. And that is the one thing that Lonzo had that everybody, let's be serious, everybody else on the Bulls just don't have. And it's depressing because it's kind of depressing as a diehard Bulls fan, always have all my life. Now, mind you, I'm like 30 years old. I haven't exactly had the luxury of watching Jordan play in his prime and be able to actually remember it.
You're lucky, yeah.
So I know what it's like, because when I first started watching basketball, who did we have in the Bulls? We had Ben Gordon. I think we did have Ben Wallace towards the tail end of his career, too. We had a really strong team, but not a championship contending team.
Right, and that's how sort of the Bulls are. They're good. They're a good team, despite what their record says, but it's just not there. They're just lacking something fundamentally in their game plan.
Exactly.
Like they can't. I just feel like they haven't figured out how to compensate for Lonzo's loss.
And that's part of the reason why I am not too keen on Zach LaVine's contract. Now, don't get me wrong. The man deserves to be paid, yes. There's no denying that whatsoever. The problem is there's so many holes. There's a massive gaping hole on that team without Lonzo being able to facilitate as a true point guard. He needs to go back to when he was in Minnesota playing the point, because he was actually a fairly good passer under Tibbs. Because he was actually a fairly good passer. That's also the reason why his defense, while somewhat suspect at times, is still respectable, more than respectable. That was something that Tibbs held high over everybody's head, was you can have a bad day offensively, but you could still be a great producer for the team if you're able to play great defense.
Actually, tell you this then. Since we've been talking about how the Bulls need a facilitator, I got a prospect for them that I think would be a great fit for them. I'm not sure whether they're going to end up in the draft lottery or if this player falls that low or not. But I'm thinking
my guess is probably going to be my guess would probably be mid-first round.
I'm thinking if they can have the pick, I'm not even caught up on all that. But Anthony Black, he's over there in Arkansas right now.
Yes, actually.
Yeah, he started getting minutes as Nick Smith Jr. went out. I think he's being hailed as the greatest passing guard in this draft class. He also has a good size on him. He's 6'7". So, I mean, I feel I feel like if those can be hurt, if they can pick him up, and give him those minutes to where, the minutes he needs to develop as quickly as possible. Even with Zoe being hurt, it's not like he can't be at practice giving the man pointers. So
yeah, and that's what every good veteran in the game should be willing to do with the rookies, is be able to help guide them to get them their careers as well too, because it'd be a much more fun league all the way around if you had a random season where everybody's basically damn near even. As the salary cap situation doesn't change much from team to team. The problem is now with the Bulls, it's going to be a very interesting way how they go through with this, because I think this is the last year on Vooch's contract. Please correct me if I am wrong. I want to know if I am wrong. And I think I don't see the Bulls re-signing him, because he may just price himself out. Because Vooch, I wish he was a little bit more consistent. But like I said, the other problem with the Bulls is not only just the lack of facilitation. It feels like they have a lack of fighting down low. Because once a shot goes up, most of them are already going the other way. Nobody's trying to stay back for a board.
Right. They don't have a big rebounding presence, like you said, outside of Luke and Drummond. And, Drummond's not that guy he was in Detroit. So.
And that's what bugs me too, because they have two great rebounders. One on the floor is a starter in Vucevic, and you got Drummond coming off the bench. The only way anybody else really tries to fight for an offensive board is when they see an opportunity for a putback slam with either DeMar, Levine, or the occasional Caruso. Which is always funny when you see Caruso do it, because it's always hilarious, because he always catches a body when he does that.
So what do you think, Ian? You think they should make some offensive moves? You think they should just lack on their bigs right now and just, I don't know, let's try a different approach? Because I feel like they need a reset, kind of.
They need a reset because, honestly, I think the Zach LaVine's contract is a little bit too steep for what they need as a team as a whole, for what they need for the team as a whole. DeMar DeRozan's contract, when they re-signed him, was for, I think, 3 years, $64. So I really think that ultimately that on a relatively cheap contract compared to what his numbers typically are, and that man could shoot the ball lights out without question. You get him in that mid-range game, you give him an open look, he is not afraid to pull the trigger and shoot it. That man's got some ice in his veins. Even though there's probably a decent chance he's probably going to miss, he's not afraid to pull the trigger when he knows he's got a shot.
Especially after he's hit a couple from the middle. He will not shy away from taking a step back.
And that's the one thing I love about Debo's game. He relies so heavily on that. A lot of people don't like the fact that he relies so heavily on his mid-range game, but once he gets warmed up on his mid-range game is when he really opens up for the rest of the court.
Mm-hmm. True volume shooter, man.
Exactly. And that's DeMar DeRozan's game as a whole, and that's why I like his fit. I like him as a scorer. Whether he's labeled as a role player or a superstar is up for debate, because LaVine commands the big contract and ultimately commands a lot of the attention of the media and everything like that. Vast majority of the time, whenever they win, it's LaVine's name that goes up in lights as opposed to DeMar DeRozan, who I really think is truly underappreciated.
Yeah, I think they should be 1A, 1B.
They have two number one option scorers in those two, but they don't have the facilitators. And to be quite fair, really lack up in rebounds, and their defense could be much better.
Right. So like you said, there's no facilitation. It feels like it's really them just like DeMar has the ball and then LaVine has the ball. DeMar has the ball, LaVine has the ball. It's not DeMar and LaVine, or LaVine and DeMar.
Exactly. You ever look at both of their games side by side? They're basically mirror images of each other with how they approach the game. LaVine is better at the mid-range than he is at the three. Although I will say he does have a better shot at the three than DeMar.
Especially when he has the hot hand.
If I had to choose somebody to take a game-winning three, I would take LaVine over DeMar. But if I just needed a two, or because DeMar is so crafty at creating his own shot, that I honestly have more faith in DeMar DeRozan than I do Zach LaVine taking those game or game-tying ones and forcing overtime.
Right. But I mean, that's shit though, man. Just give him some time.
Exactly. Now, I got to get on you about the Miami Heat. What the hell's been going on down there? Because I know you're a Heat fan.
Not exactly. I want to say I'm a fan, but if I had to be a fan of a team, then yeah, it's hands down my hometown.
Exactly. Yeah, and that's fair enough to state. I'm not exactly too. I'm like a 2 or 3 hour drive from Chicago, east of Chicago.
Mm-hmm. But that's your team.
Yeah, Bulls have been my team. So same thing with the Bears in the NFL. Same thing with the Cubs in baseball. Same thing with the Blackhawks in hockey.
Yeah, I feel it.
Speaking of which, one of these days you need to sit down and watch a hockey game. It's quite fucking fun.
I do need to watch hockey. I have watched a few on TV. I've actually been to some in person. I haven't been to a Blackhawks game, although like same thing with the Heat. I'm a Blackhawks fan through my other friends. And I have friends that are from Chicago. So I'm a Blackhawks fan through them.
One second.
Yeah.
All right, I'm back. I was getting up and my leg caught my cord for my headset. I gotta start prepping dinner, so you're gonna be hearing me in the kitchen a little bit here.
Okay. That should be fine. I just hope it's not too loud to pick up on this end. But,
maybe a couple bangs, but that's about it.
Okay. Anybody else you've been looking at? I know you mentioned to me Derek Lively from Duke.
Oh yeah, Derek Lively from Duke. Dude's game reminds me. He's definitely a defensive presence. Loves going after the rebounds, getting that dirty work done that a lot of players don't do. He reminds me of Dennis Rodman.
And what's the team you think he would fall to?
High offense but low defensive team. I honestly think if you actually slot him in at the 4 next to healthy Chet Holmgren and OKC. Another team that I think would benefit from him as well would be Houston. Those would be the 2 teams that should be looking at him.
Would you run it tall with Sengun at the 4? Because they have Jabari as well.
Yes, actually, I would.
I think recently they've actually done it tall with Jabari.
Yes, actually, I would do that because what he brings to the table is just that energy to actually want to make sure you maximizes your possessions. Because by himself, he averages at least, from what I've been looking at, he's at least about a good 4 offensive rebounds per game by himself, and that is definitely needed for success at the NBA level, no matter what your production is point-wise.
Mm-hmm.
He'd be if he goes to the NBA next season, if he goes to the NBA after this college season, going into next season, he would be, and he were likely, because his points aren't up there and consistent, he was likely going to be a second-round pick or maybe even an undrafted free agent. He would be a steal for whoever picks him up that needs that kind of effort.
Yeah, facts, honestly. You could really put him on anywhere. He should be able to flourish in his play style.
Exactly, and that kind of play style goes very undervalued in today's NBA. Where is my baking sheet?
Yeah, I just looked for that real quick. I was looking for a mock draft, and I just had to ask you, do the Bulls, do you guys think it have your pick, or does Orlando have it?
I don't know, to be honest with you.
Is it protected in any way?
Again, I don't know.
Okay.
I don't know. I know last year's was a thing, but I don't know about this year's.
Okay.
Because I believe this is Vooch's now 3rd year with the team. Because his first year, we acquired him via trade deadline. He was with us all last season.
I guess we'll see.
So my guess is we should have our first rounder, because I think we only got him for 1 first rounder and a second rounder.
Okay. I mean, maybe that first pick was protected.
Oh, and Wendell Carter Jr.
For sure. again. For Orlando, they'll be nice in a couple of years too. They got some injuries going on right now. But they have a lot of forwards.
As long as Banchero stays healthy, I think he may slot into the type of player as Embiid is currently, because he does not. I like Banchero, but I don't see it. He doesn't have the athleticism that Giannis has, but he has a better shooting. He has a pretty good shooting touch. So why I think if as long as Banchero stays healthy, he may be in a position to be as successful as no, not Tatum, because Banchero is a pure four. Mm-hmm. Let's be honest now. He's not a center. He's not a center. He's not a small forward. He is a pure four.
Okay.
I'm making pork chops, by the way. These things are sticking to my wrist.
Why is that? Do you think it's because how he actually plays, or do you think it's because of their roster? Because, like I said, they have a lot of forwards on that team already.
I think part of it has to do with the roster, but the other part of it has to do with his just size.
Yeah, he's already, 6'10"? But, I mean, Tatum's 6'10".
Yeah.
Or a little further, give or take.
Yeah, but he's also a better defensive presence than most fours in the league right now.
That's true. He does have great athleticism to help with that.
Yeah, but he doesn't have – I don't see him having a consistent scoring touch to be 30 points a game in the future. But what he's doing as a rookie is actually pretty superb. If he doesn't win Rookie of the Year, I'll be a little surprised, especially since mathematically Orlando's still in it. Hold on one second.
Okay. While you handle that, I just wanted to mention another prospect I was taking a look at. I forgot to note down which team he was from, but Jarris Walker.
Yes. All the yes with that one. My reason being with that is because it's an effort level and an energy. There's a certain energy that he brings to the game every time he steps out onto the floor. That makes you want to play harder.
Mm-hmm.
And that means a lot to young franchises moving forward who want to upgrade their rosters moving forward, who want to find themselves in championship contenders. He has what it takes. He is he's mainly scoring, but when you actually watch him out there on the floor, he's got a presence about him that you're going to leave somebody on his team wide open. Man can shoot and score, but the man also has some decent court vision.
Right.
That is not to be trifled with.
But I personally like to highlight his versatility on defense. Not only does he have that base height, like if you were to create a wing defender on 2K, you're probably gonna make him 6'8", so he's right there along the mark for that. He's not lightweighted. He's around that 230, 240 pound mark, and he can guard the 1-5. In a small ball line, I think he can guard the 1-5.
Exactly, and that means a lot.
And his reaction time.
The team's looking to build.
And
that's something that goes truly understated. Is that looking at highlight packages and everything like that, his defensive awareness.
Mm-hmm.
I know I'm going to get a lot of flack for this one. I would say, but as far as for current players are concerned, I would say his defensive awareness. I can kind of compare it to that of younger Patrick Beverley.
Okay.
Man was a defensive menace. No, not him. Not him. Used to play for the Grizzlies. He was the number 2 on the Grizzlies. He was a 2 guard on the Grizzlies with Zebo and Marc Gasol. I can't think of his name for some reason. Really defensive. This was a. Yes, it is.
Okay.
Dude's defensive game kind of reminds me of an early days Tony Allen.
All right, so if you wanted to make a more current comparison, would you give him like, I know Marcus Smart's a DPOY, so I'm not saying I can't project the film and go as far as that, but would you consider Marcus Smart? Because when Marcus Smart came into the league, he was more, pass and play deep, and he kind of developed the scoring later as he continued to develop the defense. Or like, PJ Tucker can play outside and down low. Knows how to use his size to get down there.
That's a better comparison. That was a better comparison than Tony Allen. You got me on that one.
And not as far as a role goes, but as far as, like you said, defensive awareness and what he can bring to the table immediately.
Nuggets Iggy.
Okay, I like that one too. All great defensive comparisons. I'm actually liking this draft as far as the forwards go. I mean, so far we've already talked about Brandon Miller. We got on to Jarris Marker. I think you mentioned Jalen Pickett. We might have talked about it before the recording.
No, we haven't touched him. We haven't touched him on yet in this recording per se.
Okay.
Jalen Pickett out of Penn State. Currently, during the regular season, 17 points. Let me double check my stats here, make sure I got it right here. That way I'm giving the most accurate information.
Something like that.
Yeah, but he's like 6'4", 209 pounds, and everything. So he's a short big per se. He's got the strength of a big, but he's definitely got the height of a point. He's going to remind me of he's going to remind me of a Russell Westbrook type of player.
Like, I didn't watch Russ when he first came to the league, so I don't know if he was like that on the interior presence. So you got to answer that one for me. Are we talking about like the more developed Russ, or are we talking about early Russ?
Somewhere in between.
Okay. Again, we're talking
right
about
around
the convention table immediately.
Yeah, right around when Russ was really starting to take over as a true point guard for the OKC while they still had Durant.
Okay, I see what you mean. It's that hustle, that innate drive to want to keep producing.
Exactly.
And that's something he shares with Jarris Walker that we just talked about. It's that hustle and that drive to want to keep making plays. Like, no matter what they're doing, they're always producing. Whether if they're having bad scoring nights or, at least he's passing the ball around, he's still playing defense, still giving that hustle down low on the board. And that's a player that any team can need, that every team needs and any team can use.
Exactly. Where's that? There was one more player I was looking at out of Auburn. For Johnny Broom.
Never heard of him. So please enlighten me.
Ford started all 32 games he's played. 14 points per game, 8.5 boards, 1.3 assists, so he could definitely mature in the passing department. His turnover rate is only 1.8. Does average 3 fouls per game, but still gets 2.4 blocks, almost 1 steal a game. He reminds me of an old school big because you know how old school bigs couldn't shoot a free throw with a spit?
Right.
He's about a 59% free throw percentage, but a 30% 3-pointer. But he actually does like about 53% field goal percentage on average. His usage rate is about 28% on about 26 minutes per game.
All right.
So on that basis, he does have some room. He kind of reminds me of Shaq.
Where do you think he should fall? Who would benefit most from taking him?
Call me crazy on this one, but I'm going to say I know they already got a pretty well stacked team for the most part already this season, but I think the Celtics would do well pairing him with Robert Williams.
Okay, especially since Robert Williams has been prone to injury. I mean, he's on the court, he's amazing, but he has been going down, flying off him. He's fast, he's literally.
Well, they changed the plan because of the time it is.
They can use that for real. And before we get into it, I got to give credit to Boston, first of all, for changing their coaches so much and still having the success that they do.
Exactly, especially when you consider what the now previous head coach did, and they removed the interim tag on their current head coach.
Mm-hmm.
So that says a lot about moving forward, and that also shows the resilience of the freaking team. That's one thing that goes understated is the resilience of the team.
Mm-hmm. To have the mind and body to stay together as a unit, as a group, through all the
despite the distraction that the head coach was, the now previous head coach was.
Mm-hmm. Another thing I want to note about Boston is, at least throughout the years that I've seen, is their ball facilitation. It used to just be, ISO potato, ISO for Brown. But their passing has improved a lot. Like for instance, that highlight that Tatum got, that poster on Gobert, that pass from Derrick White was freaking nasty, bro. That pass was crazy. And it wasn't even like he felt like he held it for a little bit and then he made the back pass. Like it was in motion, like it was like drawn out like that. That was pretty nice. Well, shoot, man.
Yeah, that was nutty. I actually watched that replay, and I was like, oh my god, he just diced him up like a freaking chef.
That shit was crazy.
Derrick White might actually be the current leader for sixth man of the year.
I haven't even looked at that race. I forgot all about that one.
Yeah. My opinion, it's likely going to be Derrick White but I'm still of the sense of I really want to see a game between Boston and Chicago where either Kobe White or Derrick White dunks on the other, and we can say it's white on white violence.
Oh, no. I forgot to ask you about Kobe White when we were talking about the Bulls earlier. Like I said, we'll circle back around, so hopefully I remember.
I'll spit it out right now. Honestly, I want to see he's going to be a bench player for the rest of his career. He doesn't see the minutes. He's often injured and times that we need him. He does shoot the three pretty good compared to most people off the bench.
Mm-hmm.
Compared to most bench players, he definitely shoots a good three.
Go ahead.
He doesn't really do anything else but that, which is why I think he's going to be a career bench player.
I feel like his production, the skill set that he has, is rather average.
Exactly.
And it's pretty
and that's not a knock on Kobe.
Yeah, there's not a knock on you, bro. I'm not an expert. I'm just talking.
I'm going to be the first person to say you're a better player than me. Then again, when I played basketball, I was more a defensive point guard that actually knew how to facilitate, but can't shoot with a spit. You'll always be a better shooter than me, Kobe.
Oh, man. But honestly, for this draft, has a lot of wins, and I'm really happy about it because wing players are my favorite players. And I see a lot of them about to come back into the league.
The other thing, too, is going to be like, there's more defensive players than they're getting credit for.
Right.
But
And
the other thing too is we haven't exactly had a chance to really look at the G League side of things.
true. Is it Scoot? Is it the G League tonight? Scoot Henderson.
I can't. I don't know. I'm not sure. I can't say with full certainty. I want to say he is, but I'm not 100% sure.
I think he's in there. That man, I've seen a couple highlights from him over the course of the month. That man there. Oh my goodness. Okay. Hands down best guard. Best guard. Well, honestly, I can't say best, but from what I've seen with my own eyes, like obviously I'm talking about the March Madness stuff and these prospects here, but this is all just from a couple of minutes I took over the last week. I haven't gotten to see any of these guys play, probably besides Brandon Miller. But that man Scoot, that man's ready.
He's just,
he's ready.
yeah, he's gonna have a very interesting career,
to
say the least.
It's crazy to think about not only the players but the teams, like the teams that they're going to be going to. Because obviously, as a kid, like, or even as an adult, you always get a little worried about how the league is going to turn out. So when I was like 13, 14, during the Big Three Miami era, I was like, dang, what's going to be the league going to be like when LeBron's older and stuff and everyone's on their way out, like, But I can truly say, like, 23 years old now, and I've been following basketball since I was 7. I can truly say that I am happy with how the league is turning out.
I can honestly say I'm on the fence. Can honestly say I'm on the fence because defense is not as appreciated as it used to be. And to me, that's a really weird thing because defense, at the end of the day, will win you championships. You got to be able to play some kind of defense. And without any kind of significant defense, it's just that's what separates that's what separates possible contenders to playoff contenders to championship contenders.
Mhm. Do you feel like the defense in the league has gotten lazier?
Yes, for 2 reasons. One, you have that stupid 3 in the key rule. Obviously, you can't be sitting there be parked in the. Obviously, you can't sit there be parked in the freaking lane for more than like 5 seconds. But also, at that same token, the rules, despite them actually clearing up a couple of the rules with, you can't sit there and make them funny, freaking unnatural-looking movements and try to draw fouls because of it. And that is something that there hasn't been as many fouls being called with that ever since that kind of came into play.
Mm-hmm.
And that's probably the best thing that they've had going with that. It's still just like defense kind of goes underrated, and despite the rule changes for offensive players, it's still an offensive-driven league, and defense does not really get any kind of credit where it's due.
Right.
Unless you swat out like 6 freaking shots in a single game, most people's defense don't really get looked at. Or you magically get a freaking Draymond Green type triple-double where you have 10 blocks, 10 boards, and 10 steals. And yes, I'm saying it like that because that's just kind of the best accurate. Most people on defense, they don't even get a look.
I feel practically what you're saying is like it's hard to box watch defensive staff. Like you gotta actively be watching to see the effort that people put in on defense. Because a lot of defense nowadays is help. It's not man on man. So the league is heavy on switches. So it's not like this is my guy and this is my guy for the entire play. I'm about to chase him all the way around. No, it's not like that.
Which is very important. I will say that much right there. Help defense is still very important. But it's just the fact that they do not.
That's the thing with help defense, though. It's team defense.
Exactly. And team defense is very important, but individual accolades on defense, or even just being able to, hey, yeah, I've been able to keep my assigned guy locked down, and he's only typically a 20 points per game player, and he's only got 15. He's only gotten like 12 points. Yeah, I think I did pretty freaking good, but no one's going to shine a light on.
Yeah, I feel that. They just want to see if you drop 20 or not.
Exactly.
Yeah, I understand that wholeheartedly. And it's tough because I feel like we're pretty much on the same page as far as like personal play style goes, that we highly value defense. So it's kind of disappointing to not see defense be highlighted unless it's on like a direct highlight play. Like they'll highlight the block, but they won't highlight mirror paint intimidation. If that makes sense.
Exactly. Christ, I gotta get rid of the rest of this bag of potatoes.
But that's why it's nice to know that players like freaking Jarvis Walker, Derek Lively, and others are coming into the league to hopefully add some of that, that player back into it. And then of course we already have, the growing players like we already know, like top 3 DPOY candidates include Jaren Jackson Jr. and Bam. Like I said, like I'm excited. When I said I was excited for the league, I meant to say, well, like I'm excited for the talent that's in the league, that's replacing the guys that I grew up with. Like with Russ, LeBron, Melo, KD, when they all go, I'm excited with what's left in their place.
Where'd that come from? Put it on the shelf. I'll deal with it in a little bit. Sorry about that.
Oh, you good, bro. All the problems that we have in here are gonna set it up.
All right. But yeah, no, I wanted to see defensive play get recognized again because it has been too long since individual defensive prowess, being able to stick to your guy all the time and everything like that, really should be getting highlighted more because that's something that's valued amongst coaches in the league and front office players and front office people. Because last time I've sat down and actually watched the game, and I want to be on the edge of my seat, not knowing who's going to get that little bit of an edge to move forward. But when you see somebody start breaking off like a 10-2 run, 12-2 run, you already know who's going to have that advantage and who's likely going to win that game.
Right.
And that kind of takes away the fun out of it watching as a fan.
I feel that. I definitely feel that. Especially for you, like being a fan of a direct team, like you being a direct Bulls fan, like yeah, kind of zap the energy out of you, and you can kind of tell halfway through the first quarter that this game is not going to be a W.
Exactly.
It's like, why even watching at this point? I'm hurting myself.
Exactly, and that's the biggest problem with the professional game today, and it's sad to see it go that way. On that particular, for that one particular reason, but again, as you mentioned, the talent coming into the league, though, to replace the talent that we grew up watching, is going to be interesting to say the least to see how they all develop.
Yeah, because before, like, coming into the league, players kind of came in with one or two skills that were honed to a, professional level. Like, you're a great shooter, you're a great defender, but now pretty much everyone coming in is at least average on most, if not all, departments. So it's like, yeah, like we want defense to be highlighted more, but we're talking purely about defense in itself. Without, I'm talking about me and you score. I'm talking to the audience right now. We're talking about defense, not necessarily two-way plays. So that's how I feel like the league is recognizing defensive efforts. It's more in two-way plays. Like we're always talking about the best two-way players in the league. Like I remember,
which at the end of the day are both which at the end of the day, the best two-way players are Kawhi Leonard when he's healthy.
Mm-hmm.
And yes, they have to make that specification right there. Paul George has an argument.
Mm-hmm.
And then you have
quite a few others now. But I mean, like 5-6 years ago,
and then you have
the conversation wouldn't be that long. You got Giannis too.
Exactly. And all those.
And those are just notable, like not Hall of Famers. This is superstars.
Potential Hall of Famers.
Yeah, potential Hall of Famers, superstars all on that level. There are tons of two-way players out there. Like Lou Dort is a two-way player. But we're trying to talk about focusing on
is a two-way player. Exactly.
We're not talking about his defense and the offense, just the defense.
Exactly, and that's only highlighted because those are the only ones that's hiding to a lot of people. It's just turned it on.
Right, like
position plays.
I'm trying to see another. Like I'm not trying to see someone get a steal and then. Well, obviously I am trying to see this, but we're talking more two-way people. Someone gets a steal or a block, and then we see the same team hit a three on the other end. No, I'm talking about Tony Allen getting on the floor yelling first team on defense, and then the clip ends. That's the type of stuff you're looking for.
Exactly. Like Tony Allen was a guy. You put him on a man, he's going to stick to him. The man's like glue. The man sticks on you because that was something he truly valued when he was playing basketball throughout his whole life. If you actually look at his body of work, you're going to look at his offense as like, man, this guy. If you only look at his points per game and everything, you're going to look at like, man, this guy was ass. But if you were to actually watched him, you're not going to get past him that easily. Not very many people could reliably get past Tony Allen. Like you could have stuck Tony Allen and LeBron James. He's still going to stick on it.
Yeah.
On a prime LeBron James, he's stuck to him.
Yeah. And it's nice to see that type of physicality be phased out little by little each year. But I feel like it will come back.
Yeah, part of that has to do with rule changes. I have to say that right there because you can't hand check.
Rule changes and the
like you could in the 90s.
3-point attempts.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. And apparently a potential introduction to the 4-point line.
Okay, and
if they're going to do that, they might as well just keep it at half court and say, hey, if you make a shot past half court, that's 4 points.
Yeah, no cap. Like, I'm not a big fan of the 4-point line, and that just might be because throughout 23 years of living, it's always just been a 3-point line, so I don't feel like I'd adjust to it. And I feel like eventually I get a hang of it, I get around to it. It just take a while to warm up on this. But I always think ahead, like, in the NBA it might be cool to see someone hit a 4-pointer, but I'm thinking about, like, going to LA Fitness or to the park or something and trying to hoop. And I got people chucking their 4-point shots for what?
I was like, well, because they're worth more points. All you got to do at the end of the day is score more points than your opponent. I was like, yeah, but you got to be able to reliably hit those in order for it to matter.
Yeah, it doesn't make it a smart shot. But shoot, man. I know there's something else left in the tank.
Unless it's like a buzzer beater, it's never a smart shot.
Mm-hmm. You got anything else left in the tank, man?
One thing I want to bring up is something that they're also talking about, that the NBA and the NBPA is bringing in, likely going into next season, because I actually see reports of this already, is that they're looking at, in order to actually be able to achieve certain awards, you have to play a certain number of games. You actually will have to play a minimum of a certain number of games.
Oh, okay. So I kind of heard that for like the MVP award, like if you only play like 60 games, then you should be qualified for compared to someone that played 75 games, 80 games. Am I on the right track here?
Yes. This is how I feel about that. While yes, you want to limit a lot of the back-to-back issues that kind of plague a lot of the injuries in the league as a whole. The only way that's going to happen is if they actually make the season longer by actually putting days in between all the back-to-backs.
Mm-hmm.
And only allow them to play a game every other day. Or or they'd have to. Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
I was like, in order for that to be a foreseeable thing, to cut out back-to-backs as a whole, would have to. If they want to keep the All-Star break, which at this point I think they just need to get rid of because it doesn't mean anything. That game was ass. They would either have to get rid of the All-Star break in order to eliminate vast majority of the back-to-backs that are still there, or they'd have to lengthen the duration of the season. I'm not talking about making more games per season, but making it to where you have to have at least one day in between everything.
So you just space the length of the actual season out.
Yes.
Not pack it in more, but space it out.
Yes. And then we have to circle back to one more topic we did bring up earlier, and that was John Morant.
Because with this rule change, then that would be like for a case where Zion were Rookie of the Year over Ja, although he barely played. Ja would get that award with this rule change.
Without question. Other things, too, I should actually mention if that's going to be a thing. If you're going to gauge a most improved player, they shouldn't already be scoring 25 points per game in their 20 to 25 points per game and still having like a superstar-like thing the year before they win it. If they go like 20 and 4, if say they average like a 28 and 7 as a rookie, and then they go in their sophomore year and it's like a 25, 9 and 8 after that, that should not be in contention for. Yeah, I don't want that to be included in most improved players because obviously they came in, they already showed out as a rookie and proved that they can be a star. Most improved should be those who actually genuinely struggle, and I'm not talking about with minutes, but those who genuinely struggled, like they've been in the league like 2-3 years, they probably average like 10, 11 points per game, 3-4 assists, 5-6 rebounds. Again, just example, and then all of a sudden they explode and they kind of like doubled their point production, like 21, 22 points per game, 8 assists, 10 boards. If that kind of explosion were to happen from like one season to the next, that should be what's awarded for most improved player.
Right.
Because when you have that kind of production explosion, clearly you have improved, and your team, your coaching staff sees that improvement, and it makes you a bigger fundamental player to the rotation.
I feel that. In Shea's case, though, he put up like 25 last season compared to 31 this season, I feel like he will still get the award.
Yes,
team success is a big part of that.
Yeah, his team success is a big part of that, absolutely without question. This is the Shea case this time around. The way I said it, and then when you think we put in Shea's case in this thing, Shea's case does hold that kind of bearing to be able to be considered for most improved player of the year.
Because even though it's what a 6-7 point difference, 6-7 points is a big gap realistically speaking. And then when you factor in the team success, he still put up 5 assists, includes that 31, and he's not even the assist leader on his team.
Exactly, and the other thing too, on top of that too, look at the overall record from last season to this season.
Exactly. They're killing this year. Killing. And they don't have Pokusevsky, and they don't have Chet.
Oh, yep, and Chet Holmgren's been out since the first game of Summer League last year.
Yeah, and they still have the whatever they're gonna get from the draft this year. Okay,
Exactly.
nice, man. Okay, she's gonna be fine.
Their future is bright. I honestly think they're just one big defensive presence away from being top level contenders.
I feel it.
All right, now we do got to circle back to one more subject that we did talk about earlier,
Was it the MVP?
and that is that we did John Morant.
Okay, yeah.
How the league is handling him. Honestly, to an extent, I believe it's fair because you're a high-profile athlete now. You are. I'm not saying you have to cut off all the connections you have to your old friends or anything like that, but you are a high-profile athlete. Your life is now in the public domain. Everybody who's ever watched an NBA game in that particular season, whether it be that particular season or ever since he's been in the league, is going to know who you are.
Right, especially when you're the freaking star of the team.
Exactly. And when you do something that stupid, your actions have consequences, not only to the morale of your team, but potential legal consequences. Like, what if that gun that he had showed off on Instagram had gone off and potentially killed somebody? There's a serious level of danger when it comes down to things like that. When you get to that point, I'm not saying you have to distance yourself from your old friends that helped you through, to help you grow up and get to where you are now. I'm not saying you have to do that, but there needs to be a level of understanding. Yeah, there needs to be a level of understanding and balance.
Because right now, right, doing this thing down here in Florida, you know, what does that mean for?
Oh no, he left Florida already.
Oh, for real? Okay, so I'm not caught up.
Yeah.
Is he back with the team?
No, I believe he's at home in Memphis.
Okay. So I was gonna say, like, what does this mean for Memphis's playoff contention?
Well, considering the fact that they levied an 8-game suspension on him.
I did see that. I thought he was still down there.
Honestly, it's going to drop them out of the top 5. They may have to fight for a play-in spot. That also depends on how well Ja readjusts back to the starting lineup as soon as he comes back, or if they want to limit his workload at first.
And like you said, morale hits and stuff. But I feel like they'll be fine in that, because I think they'll be fine.
Exactly, and it just kind of goes to question exactly where is going to be where the team's focus is going to be.
Right, and if any little mistake that they make, the media can twist that into another Ja story. Oh, they're playing a guy like this because, Ja went off, and now, even though he came back, it's still, whatever, blah, 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 still left in the air.
Exactly. You can't become a distraction to your team. And honestly, at least for the rest of the season, that's what it's going to look like, is what's going to happen. And I don't want to see that for the Grizzlies. Everybody else on the Grizzlies, Steven Adams especially, my God. The main mature locker room leaders, the veterans of the team, like Steven Adams, need to rip into him.
Apparently, he already had. They tried to. I mean,
do it in the presence of the rest of the locker room and truly hold him accountable.
Didn't they have that meeting?
He wasn't there. He was in the whole Florida situation still.
Oh, okay. It's more than Ja, though. I personally don't like or care for the way Dylan Brooks has been behaving.
That's why he also got that 1-game suspension on a 16 tech. of the season.
It's like you guys are trying to be the bad boy Pistons right now, but it's just uncalled for. It's very uncalled for.
You're not gonna out bad boy the freaking bad boy Pistons.
They're trying to be the new age bad boy.
You can't do it. There's nobody out there who can do that.
Yeah, that's why it's so ridiculous. That's why it's ridiculous.
They don't have to. Yeah. Aside from Steven Adams, there's really nobody on that team that really has the physical prowess to back that up.
And Steven Adams is not trying to do all that.
Exactly. He's trying to keep his mind on the game. He's trying to keep his focus on the game. He is behaving like a true professional in this situation. But I'm still saying, once he arrives in that locker room in front of everybody else in the locker room, he needs to rip into them above anybody else because he is the most veteran player on the team.
I feel that. Furthermore, though, because of all this, I don't see them winning the title this year.
No, because that leaves a massive distraction, and until those kids mature, they're not going to. I don't see them winning a championship until those kids mature.
I see it. They have a great talent. It's a great team, nonetheless, but. Yeah.
And they have the right head coach for the job because his playbook really, truly revolves around the talent that they have.
Yeah. Around that gritty. That gritty nature.
All right, well.
Yeah, as far as I go, man, that's how I think about it.
Yeah, same here. So, ladies and gentlemen out there across the world, listening to the Players Podcast. The Players Chatter Podcast. Gotta let y'all know. We're gonna be chatting up some more every now and again. I'll be an occasional presence here. But it is at that time when we gotta cut off the audio, do our own thing, because we all got our personal lives. I got kids. This man has a girlfriend to go attend to. And he's an alum of a team. And he's an alum of a team in March Madness. He has to go cheer for because that's kind of an obligation.
I do have to go cut for that SAU game. I gotta cut that out just for that. But yeah, of course, man. You already know you'll definitely be back. Not even once more, twice more, but as a regular for sure. These guys will know your name pretty much as they know mine. It was great having you. I did have fun.
Always. It's always a pleasure, man. We will be doing this again. One of these days, though, once the things with basketball calm down for a little bit before, in between, like, championship and going into the draft, we will have to dig into the NFL a little bit and have me teach you a thing or two.
Okay. Originally, I wasn't planning on diving into other sports. But realistically, I'm not going to stay close-minded on that. So if I just have to do some notes and do a little bit of research beforehand, I'll get it done. We can definitely talk football.
But NFL free agency has been absolutely fucking nuts. That's all I'm going to tell you.
I'll probably just have questions lined up.
Oh, mostly championship contender players on championship contender teams moving from team to team, like linebackers from the Eagles who just played for the Super Bowl, even though they lost, moving over to Chicago Bears. My team, who was ultimately the worst team in the league last season. Yeah. All right. But yeah, that's basically the whole thing with that.
If you like what we discuss here in the pod and are wondering how you can engage, whether it's material you'd like to see covered or additional questions and inquiries about the Player Chatter podcast itself, please feel free to reach out to us via email at playerchatterpodcast@gmail.com or check us out on Twitter at playerchatter. Thank you, and I hope to see you all again next time.